And the zooming is connecting. I'm trying to keep a happy face.
Oh, I should have put lipstick on.
Just too late now.
Let's have a pale face. Washed
face.
out. Not pale, just washed out.
Thank you.
I needs my YouTubes.
I know. That's what I'm setting up mine here. And I just got the links is live now. There's got to be a better way to automate
Right.
all this.
You watch one Uncle Roger video and then you're just stuck for life.
Hiya.
Oh, for the love of...
There we are.
I love that the early YouTube folks are getting me just complaining about it not working. All right. All right. Let's see. It's a Courtney, a Norm.
Hey.
All right, ready? We'll do this officially now.
Mm-hmm.
Why, hello, and welcome to issue 569 of Geek in the City Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Duran.
I'm one of your other hosts, Beanarita.
And I'm your other host, Cable Hashitani.
Hello, friends. How's it going?
It's all right. It's been a good Tuesday.
It's going.
Bean's like, I'm dead inside. Other than that, everything's fine.
No, I'm just I didn't get enough sleep last night, and it started catching up to me about 45 minutes before I sat down to go live. So I'm trying to just push through that.
Push it.
It's appropriate for what we're going to watch this evening.
That's a true. Really good point. I had not thought about that. Extremely relevant exhaustion.
Yeah, just claim it's performance art.
I'm just gonna.
That's what I do.
One of these.
That's right.
Riker. All right, I'm ready to watch this episode.
Well, you better.
And my hair is.
Oh, see when she
decidedly in my face today.
Trying to be meta there.
Oh, sorry, Greg. Sorry.
No. The clicking.
Gotcha.
Oh my God.
Right.
You've already failed.
I thought you were doing the
No, you have failed this podcast.
Really, of all the things I've done wrong, this is the one?
No, I just wanted to quote Arrow. So yeah, as you can tell, Trektober Part 2 continues this week. Well, we are going to be watching and talking about the Season 6 TNG episode Schisms. AKA the one where a wooden table becomes a scary operating steel table in one question.
Yeah.
That's really not the point of the episode.
But I have feelings about that one.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to that. I do as well a little bit.
Okay.
And then after the commentary, we might do a little bit of chatting about the Lower Decks season finale also. Because folks are definitely going to want to chat about that. It'll be good times.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So I've got my CBS All Access app up and running here. You guys have your viewer of choice also?
Yes.
I do.
All right. Wait, how did we do this before?
We count to 3 and hit play on the episode.
There you go. I should have known that by now. 1, 2, 3, give up. Go. Oh, the volume is so loud on my side.
Oh, God.
It's not being picked up. It's just loud in my ears.
Right. No, I had the same thing where it was like maximum volume.
Yeah.
I just have subtitles. I don't have any volume on.
Yeah. So this opening scene always kind of is interesting to me, mainly because it's one of the rare times you actually see a normal human like pillowcase and blankets and not shiny space pillowcases and blankets.
Mm-hmm.
But he is wearing this weird like pseudo-ethnic pajama set.
Yeah, you know that actually was from Jonathan Frakes, right?
Is it? His real pajamas?
No, but I could imagine he just struts on the set one day. He's like, "All right, I'm ready for my pajama scenes."
And I like that the rest of the episode we get bedhead Riker.
I know, right? I'm like, okay, so you overslept and you showed up late from work. You couldn't take like 2 more seconds of that lateness to like run some water and gel through your hair?
Nope.
How
we visually know that he is tired the entire.
Yeah, this is how you know you got super sleepy Riker.
The bags wasn't enough of a sell on its own.
So
no. Go ahead, Cable.
I was going to say. So first off, this is a would be considered a bottle episode.
Yes.
Because it only takes place either on the Enterprise or within another sound stage, which is easily repurposed.
Right.
No alien planets, nothing like that.
In that sense.
Yeah, I also love that this is the episode starts with yet another one of Data's trying to become an artist or trying to gain humanity through understanding the arts. And this time it's a poetry reading.
This is the first appearance of Ode to Spot.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you mean we get this one again?
Look, it's Lieutenant. It's Ensign J.
Ensign J.
Her. Okay.
Yeah. So Ode to Spot happens again in... Oh, it's either a season 6 or 7 episode. Oh, it's Fistful of Datas. When
So it's these looks that Jay and Picard give each other that, like, I think lends credence to that theory you were talking about off air, Aaron.
What, that Jay is...
Like that that's why she has such a cult following amongst Trekkies.
Yeah, she's never just in the background. She's always like that woman in the background there. Like that's although good acting on her part, that was an epic eye roll.
Like they're just like they're both sitting at the edges of their chairs.
They're leaning in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, I get it. You do that so that you still are both in.
Hold on, really
frame.
quick. Could we talk about just the high pants on the dude behind Data if they show him again?
They do a lot of that.
That is like some Ed Grimley outfit shit there. Look at him. Oh my God.
My video keeps breaking down. It's the 90s, man.
I get. Oh. I do have to give it to Patrick Stewart. It's actually hard to. It's awesome. It's hard to fake act faking being happy about something and not having it look bad.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, it's just torture.
So painful. And don't get me wrong, man. I love Next Gen, but the whole idea like this is what humans do for pastime now. I think it's one of my favorite things that it kind of went away with DS9 and Discovery, like really kind of put a pin in it, is that when people are after hours, they still go hit the bar and listen to music and just kind of like screw around. The idea of like, well, I've just put in 8 hours on the bridge. I'm going to go listen to beat poetry now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they have other stuff. They've got poker night.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like ship gatherings. It's like
we never see what the lower decks kids get up to.
That's
true.
Because they're fucking off.
That's because they're actually
we know exactly what they do now.
They're doing shots in 10 forward.
Mm-hmm. Like
you get that second pip, and all of a sudden you're going to violin concertos every other night.
Yep, I love the fact that is the piss that Lower Decks just takes out of Next Gen. It's like,
yeah,
it's like nope. On Thursdays is poker night. It's a friendly game.
What about money? We don't have money. But I do also love how Discovery kind of took the piss out of it too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's season 1 when it's the big old party.
Yes.
And Tilly has that line to Michael. I'm kind of done like only having a thing and in uniform. And then she glances at that one lieutenant kind of shaking and she's like, Well, maybe not.
Yep. I think that also started to go away due to the Kelvin timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we're introduced to both Kirk and Uhura in a bar fight.
That's right. With Bud Classic, was still one of my favorite lines in that whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
You better be careful, Riker. You know what happens when you make Beverly mad. She will backhand you. She did it to Wesley once, and that was her son.
Ah.
Ironically, actually, I think in the episode where they weren't getting enough REM sleep.
Not enough sleep makes you angry.
Yeah, it does. There's our same 4-colored red and blue experiments that are ever going on in the back of sickbay.
Oh yeah, they always have to be going on.
Always have to be going on. Yeah, it's the culture tanks, I think. I don't know. Look,
this is a cool shot.
Just her?
I'm sorry. My video is a little bit off.
Oh, that's fine.
No, over here by the, I assume the war core.
Oh yeah, the reflection, like when you see it in the. Yeah, that's always a good one.
I don't know how often they use that, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
Fairly often, but I imagine it's a tricky shot because that requires making your background light, like the warp core, bright enough to reflect, but not distracting from what you have to see. And whenever glass and light is involved, it's kind of a cinematographer's nightmare.
I'll bet this is still reflecting off the back panel there. I feel too that no, I lost it. Oh, this, like, they spent a lot of time, effort, and energy in building the engine room set. So by season 6, you would hope that they had figured out how to shoot it from different angles to get neat shots like that reflection.
Yeah, I mean, by now they've really got it down to a science.
That's a good point.
What's interesting is that when they were first designing TNG, like creating the show Bible and whatnot, there wasn't going to be an engine room at all.
What?
The thought being is that Starfleet ships had advanced so much that everything could be done from like the bridge, like everything could be done from the bridge. What it really was Paramount wanting to cut corners and save money, not build the next set. So apparently, as the rumor goes, an encounter at Farpoint, Roddenberry specifically wrote a scene that said interior engine room, kind of forcing Paramount to build an engine room.
I mean, it's a fun idea, I suppose. The idea that, like, oh, you don't have to have a separate engine room to take care of all your stuff, but doing everything from the bridge would be visually boring, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
It
would. Well, that's right. Here's where the things are starting to happen. They're starting to show up. And also, what's funny about Paramount being cheap is like a lot of these things were already built. They just had to kind of reassemble it. So go ahead.
I was just going to commentary back on the show, but go ahead, Aaron.
No, I was going to say like the that bridge room table that they call the pool table. They built that thing for Star Trek 4. That's the table back on Earth. That's been used so many times, and it gets repurposed for Enterprise. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's nice that they aren't wasting it by making a new one every time, but
See that though? 3 enlisted people, jumpsuits.
Oh, I did notice that because we were just talking about that last week where I was like, I've never really I don't have active knowledge of the jumpsuits. So they caught my eye last week too.
I think with TNG we saw more uniforms than we did coveralls. So.
Oh yeah, totally. Which for me weirdly makes sense for me in my head.
Does it?
Yeah, this is the flagship, so you're gonna have all of your fanciest people on it and whatnot.
So I wanted to make the comment in the last scene when there's the explosion in the cargo bay that is the I've never seen so many people saunter to the site of an emergency where people may be dead than that scene right there. Hi, Manju.
There was a lot there. Yeah.
But I feel like this episode, more than a lot of others, there are a lot of named extras. There are a lot of additional crew that are seen. So it's not just the bridge crew that we see.
Right. Which is kind of cool, actually.
Mm-hmm. It's a busier episode in that regard.
Yeah.
And I think it's like that's where it starts lending to. I think part of what makes this a good horror episode is that there are all these sequences where, like, Data and Geordi are talking about how poorly his poetry reading went, or talking about hot toddies, or an upcoming scene, this scene right here where Worf's about to get his hair cut. It's all very mundane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have as much tension as I would have preferred from this type of plot device until a much later into the episode.
Which is why I had mentioned, when I sent the message to you guys this afternoon, that's where this starts to feel Lovecraftian, in that it is this very slow burn.
And it's dread.
Yes.
That's building. It's not danger. It's not fear. It's this. There's something out there, and right now they're all thinking, well, it's just all in our heads.
Yes.
They're
all making sanity checks on their own and failing and not realizing why.
They're losing sanity points. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a really good way of putting that.
Worf just lost one here. It's like, oh, I just attacked my barber.
Yeah.
And to me, this was at the first time I watched it, I was like, "What? What's his deal? Why is he so upset?" I hadn't yet picked up what was happening.
Right.
What the problem was. I'm like, why is he mad about the barber?
And then he just, wanders off and doesn't apologize in very Klingon fashion.
Right. Yeah.
Or explain.
Mm-hmm.
I do love how they start to also hint that, you find out later that Geordi's also being abducted, but his implants are kind of letting him process things differently. Mm-hmm. So he's not as exhausted as like Worf, Riker, and the woman we meet later. I always forget her name. Just civilian number one.
Yes.
Those jugs in the background look extremely TNG recycled.
Mm-hmm.
That was our TOS.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
Yeah. Those blue ones are just flat out water barrels. Well, and the other ones I think are just trash cans.
They look like it. Both of them.
Yeah.
Come here, kitty.
I think the one bit of tech that is always, at least in terms of I don't mean future tech, but set design from TNG that still holds up. Because a lot of the TNG stuff, it's like they're on a giant cruise ship. Like everything's beige and carpeted. There's only 3 plants, so they just move around. But the Lacar's interface was always cool.
Mm-hmm.
And how it adjusted to the user and stuff. That was a pretty interesting jump.
I don't think I've ever realized that it adjusts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the precursor to our touch screens that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since they developed this, that's all we've wanted out of computers is touchscreen.
Yeah, totally.
I'll speak for yourself.
What do you want? You want the typing?
Hold on, I'll show it to you.
Or do you want the Iron Man stuff?
She's just gonna keep us in suspense until she finds it.
I'm bringing up an image.
I do like the one of the tropes they go through here, which is very effective for this kind of show, is the science and medicine can't figure out what it is.
Yeah.
And what I do appreciate though is never once does Dr. Crusher say like, well, you guys are just nuts.
Nope.
You know, it's always okay. Nothing that I know is showing up, so we need to figure out what's going on.
Yep. This is not a bacteria I've ever seen or heard of.
Right. Yeah.
Or exists in our databases.
Yeah. So I'm not just going to discredit it as in your head. Something is wrong. You're right.
Just can't figure out anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. I sent you a link of what I want phones to be like.
Oh, phones?
Yeah.
Nerd.
I wasn't referring to just phones, but yes.
That has a touch screen too, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
I meant more things like the Surface that I'm using. I do find this funny. You can see the Phillips head screws at the top of the L cars.
I know.
I don't think I'd ever noticed that before.
And when this would have first broadcasted, you may not have noticed it as much. Because it would have been, tube tees. First time I ever saw Riker take the helm.
I didn't really notice it the first time I watched this.
Yeah.
I noticed it this afternoon when I was watching this in prep and went, what the hell?
I mean, if it's an effective tool, why would it ever go away?
Sure. I don't think you're going to put it through an L cars.
That's true. You got me on there, Cable. Damn you.
Do I? Did I?
I do like how a lot of the shots in this episode, if there's an extra, they make sure to put them in the scene. They're not just kind of like off-setter. It creates a neat little claustrophobic vibe to it, which I dig.
Like this guy in the background here?
Yeah.
Who's Lieutenant Shipley, who's been named throughout the episode.
Yep. Poor Shipley. Jordy, what do your L5s see? Whenever they do this, that's all I hear in my head. It's where John McClane's crawling about, looking for Hans Gruber.
Come to the coast, get together, have a few laughs.
I do love that TNG did technically do a Die Hard episode.
Yes, it did. As did Voyager.
It's true.
Did Deep Space Nine ever do one? I don't think they did.
I
feel like that's all Deep Space Nine was.
Yeah. I mean, as we'll discuss next week, Empok Nor is kind of that, but in reverse.
Yeah, I also rewatched that one recently, and that is definitely more psychological thriller.
Yeah.
As far as what kind of horror movie or horror trope does it go into?
This one is definitely more Lovecraftian, but the alien abduction genre is kind of Lovecraftian on its own anyway.
Sure.
Man, this is peak Marina Sirtis wig here.
I do not care for this style choice.
No, we're about 10 episodes away from her getting a freaking uniform finally. Finally, but
to me, that is still the best thing that Captain Jellicoe ever did for the Enterprise.
That's right.
Also, I think she's been Marina Sirtis was tanning a little too much at this particular time in production.
I mean, I don't know. I think
or they lightened her hair, but her coloring just seems really off to me from what I'm used to.
That wig seems because I don't think it's her real hair until the movies.
It's not.
It's a wig the entire time.
But didn't it used to be darker, like really dark?
Also,
looks more
that
medium
purple
brown.
outfit, which by her own admission is her least favorite, is
Mhm.
the least flattering everything.
Right.
Cut,
Well, it's
shape,
the
color, all of it.
stupid cat suit, and then the pant legs are like loose, like trousers, like unflattering women's like work clothing trousers.
Yeah.
It's a bit. Yeah, everything about her look in this episode is terrible.
I hated
Oh.
all of her jumpsuits.
I kind of like this because I like the thing in horror movies when everyone starts to figure out as they begin to share experience.
Mm.
Like, wait a minute.
That one woman, I have speaking lines now. This will
She
get me my
does.
this will get me my SAG card.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never be seen on. Well, she might have been on Star Trek again. I don't know. In a just world, that would have been Ensign J instead of this rando.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Riker jumps right to the It's like, of course, I can use the holodeck for something other than, having sex with holograms.
Her name is Minuet. Thank you very much. Show some respect.
No.
This scene is so weird. This was the first time I think they actually had to build the holodeck. Normally it was, I guess, like blue screen or green screened. This one they had to actually build it for some reason.
Because it was going to be the actual set. Like that's
that's true. Oh, that's right, because usually it goes right to another like computer, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here comes that jump in computer table logic.
So I thought, I get why.
Well, yeah, because they have to do this scene in like 6 minutes.
That and, all right, you want us to bring in how many different tables and then keep swapping them in and out? No,
right.
No.
Like it would have broken a lot of rules of Trek, but part of me would have been like, here's where we need the title card that says 4 hours later.
Mm-hmm. And then, what kind of table is that just appeared?
That one,
the inclined wooden one.
That's like some fucking D&D sex table.
Yep. Like it is hard to go with.
See, there's a jump.
It's like that's not even a table anymore.
No. This is them just hitting the Paramount prop lot.
Mm-hmm.
Just anything.
Yeah, totally. Because I'm pretty sure that table we just saw makes an appearance in Jason X eventually. That's Paramount, right? Cable? Jason?
Yes.
Yeah. Or at least was at the time. I mean, I know we make fun of this part because it is kind of a lot of like weird jumps. But from about here on, I do like the creepiness vibe they get going on.
Mm-hmm. I think LeVar Burton helps really sell it at this point. His verbal frustration with not being able to describe what he's talking about to the computer in precise parameters. Like that's frustrating for an engineer. It's frustrating for him as a human. And then just making the light brighter, followed by Riker just walking out of the shadows. It's like
what a shot there, right?
Yeah,
that's a good shot.
Like this whole scene is definitely the this is not the kind of episode that I thought it was.
Right.
It's like one of the most dramatic moments in the whole episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. Like once they discover the aliens, it's not as scary, which is that whole thing about dread being worse than fear.
Mm-hmm.
Once you see the thing, your brain can start to process it. But the dread's just the worst. And is the hardest thing to convey, I think. Dread's hard to pull off.
Music has to do a lot for you in those instances. Like you can only like act like you're feeling dread so much.
Right.
It's really hard to convey.
But I think like Frakes sells it with being constantly exhausted the entire episode. Like he just little mannerisms going, I'm over this shit. I'm over it. I'm over it.
Right. Big enough to hold my hair.
I do like exactly like how exact her
Oh my god.
description is. Oh no. Where'd you go?
I'm back.
Oh.
Jeez.
Maybe they should have had this throwaway character like just be really good at like drawing, and she could have just like just like a witness description of what the table looks like, and then they could have spent less time on this scene.
Right.
Gone totally analog with it. It's like, here, let me draw you what it looked like.
Well, I mean, they could feed it into the holodeck after she's done drawing it, and then it like renders, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, that's it."
Yeah, but this builds better tension.
But they had to build up the table in order for her to even get to the point where it's like, oh, right, there was a swing arm.
Yeah. I do like Worf's reaction there. Like they're like all of them, their eyes are like, oh shit.
Yeah, and that's the like you have Worf involved in this, and Worf is visibly scared. And he's the biggest badass on the ship.
Right.
They do a lot of subtle things to show you why this is so terrifying, rather than just tell you this is supposed to be scary.
Yeah.
And here it is.
Ugh.
This is, to me, this is where it starts to get really good.
Mm-hmm.
The clicking.
Yeah, once you add the audio effect, the table is just they've spent so much time on this table, and you're like, the logical steps here are kind of silly.
I love Riker's
but
line.
this is where it gets dark and serious.
But it's supposed to they want that slow build so that the payoff is, oh god.
Right.
Oh god.
And it'd be one thing if
too
like
slow is all I mean. They get there in the end, but they really took their time about it.
Yeah.
This is also like 80s TV.
It's true. I forget.
We're 90s by now, but yeah.
This early 90s is basically the same as the 80s still.
I do like that it's not whispers though, because that's actually something your brain can handle better. But that clicking is not a way that humans think about communicating. It's decidedly foreign. That's the sound. That's something that isn't even like mammalian.
It's
how they communicate.
insectoid.
Yeah, so it's disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Man, sometimes that techno babble kind of helps sell a story.
Yep. Yeah, when it's like not even like even data is affected. It's like, oh, right. Well, we're all screwed then.
Right. But it also allows them to just firmly establish, okay, it's not just like we're not just all having the same dream or anything like that. I was not on the ship.
Yep.
Right.
Now, how do we explain this? What time is it now?
What do you mean? Maybe what time is it now?
Oh, I love this part.
Right, because she just said they've been gone since X hour, since 23 something.
Oh, that's right. The thing with Riker's arm.
I like how the other officer's just like, I don't want to have to tell the first officer that his arm has been removed.
Right.
I'm going to have the chief medical officer do it.
That is removed. Perfectly severed. That is, I don't know why out of all the experiments we find out about here, that one disturbs me the most. The idea that, that just messes with me.
And put it back.
Because it's clearly we are doing something we shouldn't be, and we are trying to cover our tracks.
Right.
I mean, there's something that like deeply violating about amputating one of your limbs without you knowing, and then putting it back so you still never know.
Right. think the other reason why this episode works as kind of a horror or Lovecraftian stuff is that there are a lot of accepted dangers of serving on a starship, in Starfleet.
Mm-hmm.
From black holes and meteor showers and fucking Romulans and Borg but they're all
Tribbles.
external. Yeah, but they're all external threats, and in a way you can deal with. But if you just start to vanish and no one knows why,
Mm-hmm.
like for as dangerous as space is, like ships are safe.
I mean, that's disturbing anywhere you go.
They're
Right.
perceived as safe. Yes.
Yeah, and this episode runs like, no, you're not safe. We'll take you while you sleep and cut your arms off.
Mm-hmm.
While clicking.
And what's worse is you're the one that threw up the flag
Yeah.
and went, here we are. It's like, no. Oh, no.
Yeah, you went looking for us, and now you're annoyed that we are interacting with you.
That's something, like, because, I mean, spoilers, because they never really get to know anything about who these entities are or what their motives are.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know. Like, they might not have had malicious intent. It could just be, how they get information, and they don't understand. There's no reason for them to think that there's anything wrong with that.
They're clicky fish people. They're evil.
That's racist. Speciesist.
Whatever.
And so is the entirety of Starfleet.
I always wonder if those chairs were comfortable.
Probably not.
Probably not. Nothing on TV is actually meant to be comfortable.
They look like something you can get at Home Goods, and it looks cool, but it's not great or long lasting.
Yeah, no. But the table's cool. The table that has to be polished like freaking hourly.
By Boimler.
It's coming from That's the Trek equivalent of it's coming from inside the ship.
Mm-hmm. All is coming from inside the house.
Yeah, you keep waiting for hello, Sydney.
Could Scream come out by this point?
No.
No. Much
I do
later.
believe,
Are you sure?
yeah. Scream is actually a late 90s thing. Oh, that's my fault.
How dare you?
I know. This is what I get for looking up when Scream came out. 96.
Okay, so not much later, but
Yeah, like 2 years.
this episode is 94?
No, I guess this is
No,
92.
92. We're gonna have to cut your ass off. Riker knows how the game works. Yeah, this would have been what? Yeah, 92.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember. I know for a while McFadden was also given a wig.
Yeah, I still feel like we're in the wig era of Gates
Yeah.
McFadden.
This hair, in my mind, looks better than what I'm used to from the earlier seasons.
Well, they get better at the wigs.
Yeah, but this is
Except-
also a different hairstyle than what she just had in the conference room.
Is it?
Presumably because this was shot.
No, it's
Like-
the same as the conference room.
Yeah, her hairstyle was slightly off.
It's absolutely the same style.
Is it?
I mean, who's going to be the better long hair expert here?
Staying out of it.
Are you saying because I shave mine off, I don't pay attention to hair?
But I do see what Cable's saying. This probably was that all those scenes were probably all shot at once.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they like gave her a, like a refluffing before, between scenes, but it's the same hairstyle.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. I think it's
It seemed like
y'all.
it was brushed back further.
It's also different angles. You get her from different sides in those two scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see where that might seem different.
You nerds.
Riker pretending to sleep just like he's a kid on Christmas Eve.
I know.
This is Aaron sitting in his bed every Christmas
How dare
Eve.
you? Not that I do that in still.
Uh-huh. No, that's
I
why
like to. Whoa, 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 whoa.
I didn't put a date on it.
You should see me on the night before whenever I go to Disneyland. I don't even try to go to bed.
I usually don't end up sleeping before any trips ever.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Frakes does a lot of great just face acting in this episode or in this whole sequence where he's just like, I have to look scared, but I also have to look like I'm not going to panic.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the scissors, the curvy scissors.
Mm-hmm.
That actress, that extra there playing the other Starfleet officer. I know she's just lying with her eyes open, but she's really good at giving that look of like, am I dead or not? It's just, I don't know.
Actually, it reminded me of some recent scenes from Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
Just to bring it all back around.
Apparently, Braga was never happy with how these aliens looked, but I think they're fine.
I don't ever remember being able to see them that clearly.
You couldn't back then.
Yeah, like back then, that was still like I could tell that they're semi-amphibious or semi-fish, but I couldn't when I first watched this.
Right.
It was a dark hooded figure
with just the scariest hands, those claws.
Yep. It's like those aren't hands.
They've got claws like a lobster boy. I mean, they're perfectly cromulent aliens.
Cromulent aliens? What?
They kind of have Sleestack hands.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you grew up watching Land of the Lost, makes this episode all the more terrifying, honestly.
Oh, here, they're doing that warp core reflection shot again, which kind of makes me wonder if like they only recently figured out how to do that, and they're like, "This looks cool," so we're just gonna use it all the time.
Oh, no, I think they were doing it for a while.
Fine.
Like they shift directors, but the people working the cameras probably are there all the time and go, you know what's really cool is if we do this kind of shot. Oh, okay, let's do that.
I'm so annoyed we never got a sequel with these aliens. Not even in there was a 2-issue miniseries back when DC had the Trek license in like 93. It did a pseudo follow-up, but
never on the show.
No, and I even think like there could be you could do something good with these guys. It would probably have to be in a comic now, you know.
But I think that's also where this gets into. That's what places this into Lovecraftian style horror is. We never see them again, and we never know.
Right.
And that makes them always a threat.
I haven't really decided which camp I'm in with that argument. If it's a good villain, you kind of always want to get another opportunity to see them again, even if it's a similar type plot in one of the subsequent series. But I agree with Cable too that like the never knowing is like part of what gives it that dread. And if you revisit it, and it's especially if it's not executed that well. Like what if Enterprise had brought this back and explained it more than we understand about it here in this next gen episode? That would ruin it in my mind.
I think that here's the trick is they have done this. They did this on Voyager and it ruined it.
They did this alien in Voyager?
They did. An alien species invaded the ship, was out of phase from the rest of the crew, so was able to perform a bunch of really weird experiments on the crew, except nobody knew that they were there.
Yeah, the episode's called Scientific Method.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think I watched that, even though it sounds familiar.
It was another one of the. It was after 7 of 9 had become part of the crew, so it was one in the series of 7 of 9 has to save the ship.
Mm.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people aren't going to like her.
It's season 4, so it's relatively new. 7 of 9. So.
Okay. I really don't think I watched it. It just feels familiar.
Yeah, like Janeway's complaining of a headache the entire episode. It just gets worse and worse and worse, and then come to find out it's because there's this weird contraption with like 18 different needles drilled into her head.
Yeah. That
these alien scientists are like, adjusting all the time to make her headache worse, to see what kind of tension and stress she can take. But they're a humanoid race, so once they're exposed, she can have a conversation with them, and they basically have a moral argument about when does the scientific method, when is it like experimenting on people against their will, and when is it you're just conducting experiments on a lower life form?
Right.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, I guess.
To the ones that were, the scientists, they're like, well, you're not nearly as advanced a species as we are, so we figure you wouldn't have noticed.
You wouldn't, yeah, it's not a thing.
Also, like, as a human, there's no actual leg to stand on and having any sort of indignation about that, because we've been doing it for generations. Mm-hmm. So probably about as long as we've been around, if we're being honest. So, like, where do we get off getting mad about it?
Well, and that's one of the problems inherent with Star Trek sometimes, is the moral and lesson of any particular episode. It's like, no, we're not past that yet. We're not at a point where we can berate other species for being dicks, because we're still a dick about that particular thing. But like, that's because it's the entertainment of now. It's like, we're trying to teach ourselves that this is a bad thing. We should all be on board with this being a bad thing.
I don't know. I still want them to show up.
Sure. Of course you do, because you like monsters.
I do.
And you want to play with monsters.
Yeah. Monsters in Trek are fun.
Mm-hmm. But if you want this to be just remain a standalone story, it works never knowing.
I know. What I get annoyed is that they basically suggest right here that, like, hey, they know they're out. They know we're here. What do we do now? It would have been like seeing the Borg at the end of Q Who and then never revisiting them again.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been, Guinan saying, they know you're out there now. And then, like, never revisiting it ever again.
Well, it's not like they made a habit of doing that. It's not like, there's the entire, that happened with, I don't know, the Packlids.
We'll get to that in a minute. Or, the race that burrows inside your body and takes over heads of like admirals in Starfleet.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talked through it and it's past now, but that's a really great last line / last shot. Kind of encompasses the whole concept of this episode. It's just like, oh well, I don't think that they were necessarily benevolent. No. Almost certainly not malevolent, and they're still out there, and we know next to nothing.
Yeah.
The end.
And they know how to get to us now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
So watch out if you hear clicking in the night. You're going to get your arm cut off and reassembled.
And also, worst of all, is you're going to wake up in the morning and feel like you've only just closed your eyes.
The worst.
Honestly, I would rather have my arm amputated and not put back on than to go through a prolonged situation of that.
I'd rather have body parts removed if I can get a solid 8 hours.
Yep.
Well, I actually think this one's a little spookier than Wolf in the Fold.
I agree.
think it's got,
Oh yeah.
And it's way less, misogynistic. Which is
yeah, it's not nearly as problematic.
Yeah, not as much. Sorry, I'm having to move around because I'm sitting on the floor today. There we go. Awesome. So should we move on to, before we wrap up the show, to give our quick thoughts on the series finale of Star Trek Lower Decks?
Yeah.
Woohoo! So yeah, it was episode 10, No Small Parts, I believe is the title of the episode. And the main crux is that, or the thing that starts to happen is that we get the return of the Packlets, who are smart.
So remind me, they are introduced in TNG?
TNG. They are somehow a race that isn't smart enough to build their own ships, but are smart enough to get a ship, go to space, and rob other ships of parts to make them think, to make work, make us go fast, make us shoot.
Right.
They're a very awkward alien race as they were written. And I like that Lower Decks kind of points the fingers at those writers and says, yeah, you created kind of a shitty thing here, so we're going to have some fun with it.
They didn't just point the finger at the writers of the Packlet episode. They took umbrage with the whole practice of, we fixed their problem and then left. Everything should be fine now.
Right.
They
slapped them on the wrist and said no.
They make it a joke in the beginning, but then later they straight up call it out and they're like, we're shitty at this, Starfleet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do like that part. I do love that the Packlets they just keep grabbing more and more parts to where now they've got like Romulan disruptors and Klingon cloaking devices and Gorn this and that and everything, but that they want every Starfleet ship because every ship is the Enterprise, which is very Packlet-like. Another Enterprise.
I think it was like, to me, what told me that this was going to be a completely different episode of Lower Decks after the 9 that I'd seen before was that they had the before credits opening, which was funny, where you set up the whole, now everybody knows about Mariner. We're visiting Landru from the original series. All of that's hilarious. And then you go to credits, and immediately after the credits, they destroy a starship and kill 400 people. Right. And then immediately go into the next joke. They don't lose a beat. They just keep going. It's like, I don't have any time to process the fact that you just killed an entire starship full of people.
A brand new one too.
Nope, it's just done.
Yeah. But that was the signal of like, oh, this is a different episode. I don't know what we're going to get. And then, punctuated that with the way that episode ended.
Yeah, I do love the little nod they brought back the exocomps. And when I read the title of the episode, I thought like, oh, the exocomp is going to willingly do this thing, but they turned against that almost immediately. And I also love how the exocomp just like, gotta go. Bye.
I just joined to piss off my dad.
Yep.
Yeah, Peanut Hamper.
Peanut Hamper is a stupid name. Like, yeah, that so much of that episode. I did appreciate the callback that Shax gives to when he's saving Rutherford. It's like God, like Godspeed, baby bear. Just like, oh right, they're called the Bear Pack. Oh God.
I couldn't get enough. I mean, it definitely had like a lot of heart, a lot more heart. But this one ended up being even more, callback of callbacks to like all things Trek
Mm-hmm.
that than Lower Decks has ever done. They threw every single reference in this episode.
But they didn't just rely on the references to get them through. Like
No, not at all. Yeah, no, I enjoy the whole point is that like the one thing that Trek never really acknowledges is that, and even though it's the butt of almost every episode of Lower Decks, we never see Starfleet or the Federation follow up.
Mm-hmm.
Which I get it. The whole point of Star Trek initially is the adventure in space, always the new discovery, always the unsailed horizon. Like that's, it's still space adventure.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to try to show a growing, thriving universe, you have to deal with the people that then have to make it work. It's like that whole thing about rebellions are easy, but governing is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing.
No, totally. It's really it's very easy to kind of show up and sort of like act like everyone's nanny and tell you how you're supposed to do things. But if you just walk away and never look back and make sure that work gets done, that kid's gonna have a messy room.
Yeah. First contact day salmon was just the best. It's just the weirdest little joke.
We are now making plans for next April 5th.
Yeah.
And looking up different recipes, and that is solidly going to be the thing.
Right.
I like that idea. Also, I love salmon. So.
To the degree that if we are at a point where we can meet in person by next April 5th, that needs to be our new Thanksgiving.
We could do that. We do first contact day. That'd be fun. Mm-hmm. Ooh, another reason to wear my Cybok outfit.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit I audibly squealed when the Titan made an appearance. I do. I love that ship. It's such a cool design.
I don't think I'd have ever really seen it before until now. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, it's on the cover of some of the books, and Eagle Moss has had a model out for a couple years now of it.
It's pretty slick.
Yeah, and plus, Cable knows it's got that catamaran design, which I'm just a total nerd for.
Is that why they went with that, so that it could be like the D and the E, but also be a callback to the Reliant?
It wasn't. So from what I remember, when they were planning the Star Trek Titan novels that take place after Nemesis, they had actually did a contest to design what the Titan looks like. So they actually didn't have any forethought about it. But I do believe the person who did initially design the Titan, he had mentioned that like his inspirations were the Akira class and the Reliant. Those were his two inspirations.
Neat.
And of course, the never used NS refit. Those were like the things he drew upon as he was drawing the Titan.
It's a good looking ship. And
yeah, it's really good.
Until he showed up, I had completely forgotten that was the ship that Riker got after Nemesis.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
I only knew it from a couple of books I read at one point.
I was
Troy making mock you. She's like, you have enough Horgons.
I was talking with a friend at work who watched one of the Ready Room after it, which I didn't realize they were still doing the Ready Room for all the.
I didn't either. Is it? Oh
yeah, Will Wheaton's doing another season of the Ready Room, and it's all about Lower Decks. So I need to go back and watch all of those.
I had no idea. Oh, okay, cool.
Darn.
But apparently, when he was talking to Frakes about his appearance, the director of the episode just went, it's like, what do you want? Do you want me to Riker this way, or movie Riker, or TV Riker? He's like, I want you to play Riker the way that you've always wanted to play Riker. And he's like, done. And apparently that was what we saw in that brief bit on Lower Decks is how Jonathan Frakes has always wanted to play Riker.
Wow, now I want to watch it yet again.
Yeah. Bombastic, over the top, the whole go to warp 5, 6, 7, 8.
Because he's always been a smooth character, but in a very like reserved fashion.
Mm-hmm.
He gets really boring around season 3 of TNG.
Mm-hmm.
Because season 1, he very much is hey, I'm going to be the youngest captain in Starfleet ever. That was his whole point. He was going to beat Kirk by a year as the youngest captain in Starfleet. That's why one of my favorite Q lines, I think it's in season 2. Maybe it is season 3. When it is season 3.
It is.
Yeah.
I liked you better before the beard.
You're so stoic now, Will. I liked you before the beard.
And he's the guy who gets you all your contraband.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And like looking at that version of Riker, it's like, oh, of course you're why Beckett Mariner behaves the way that she does in Starfleet. If you were her mentor,
yeah,
there's no other way you would have turned out. None.
God, it just
which also explains why Captain Freeman hates him.
No, not Riker, no. Oh man, she's mad at Bormer. I'm gonna feed you to Armus.
Oh God,
so many great references. And also, did we see the Cerrito after it got repaired?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't remember. We see shots of Star. Oh, we do see it. Okay. I really thought they were going to do a thing where they were going to give it one kind of weird little refit. She's like, I want it the way it used to look. Don't sovereign that thing.
I want it to look almost exactly the way she used to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a very specific way that she phrased it. That was not exactly the same.
That's right. I hate it when a ship gets repaired and comes out looking all sovereign class. Oh.
Yeah,
I am gonna miss Shaxis.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
Yeah, I didn't think they would kill off one of them. Although I should be used to, but
I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I did love at his funeral though. He's probably out there screaming at someone in the afterlife right now.
Fred Tascatore, who plays Shax, was also on this episode of Ready Room and was talking about the fact that he really loves the show, is looking forward to doing other voices for the show, maybe coming back next season. He's like, but I want to make it clear, Shax is dead. No clones, no mirror universe, no duplicates, no nothing. Right. Shax is dead.
Right.
It's like, okay. It's like I don't want that. We're not doing that. We're not, just because we're the funny Trek, we're not like, oh, we're gonna bring him back and everything's gonna be as normal. It's like season 2 is going to start with Boimler still on the Titan.
Right.
Beckett is still pissed at him.
I was really curious what next season is going to look like, because the whole show starts with Boimler and Beckett, becoming friends and working together on this ship. Is the next season still going to be about them?
It's still going to be about the four. It's the four people are Mariner, Boimler, Tendi, and Rutherford.
Well, because what I remembered was that way back when, I think before even it was discussed or like leaked or being talked about that Lower Decks would be an animated series, the rumors were that it was going to be an anthology series. And I was thinking that it would be pretty cool if the next season was just a whole new cast of characters. Like still a hilarious animated show, but just all different people.
I think an anthology would work for a dramatic series and not a comedic one. Because part of the appeal is Beckett Mariner is an absolute train wreck of a person to watch, and that's what makes her so fun in a Trek setting.
It's to watch them all kind of grow together. I mean, if I had to guess, there's just Boimler's going to do horrible on the Titan.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be a lot of work.
See, and I don't know that that's true. I think he'll actually excel, but that's only also because he's been working with Mariner. Like, all of them keep screwing up in all these different ways until you actually put them in danger. And like, even Boimler, when he's in, like, he'll yell and scream, but like, he's the one that comes across with the speeches that can inspire everyone else to pick everything up and keep going.
Right.
Like, at no point did he, like, they're getting attacked by the Packlids, and he's just in the chair at the con doing shit.
Right. I do like, for as much as she complains about not wanting responsibility, there's an intentional shot that when Mariner sits in the center seat, how natural she looks in it.
Mm-hmm.
It even has that look of like, oh yeah, the center seat.
Yeah. She's just like, it's like, this is my chair all the time.
Right.
Period.
We got to wrap it up here a little bit, but
Sure.
I think my favorite visual joke, and there were a lot in this one, but I think my favorite was in the background when the Cerritos' engineer had the freaking Spock helmet from the 70s toy.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I saw that.
That and Sulu's rapier, but yeah, that Spock helmet was like, oh my god,
That was great.
The dumbest Trek toy ever made.
I think my favorite was at the end there. I know it's not main characters, but yeah, Riker's talking about like, oh yeah, let's go to that planet. They've got a little Ryza. And then that's why Deanna's like, should we bring the little Horgoth then? No, we'll bring the regular size Horgoth. And I didn't really know what that was, so I had to look it up, and I was like, that's a butt plug.
The Horgon?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many great little things. Oh my god, I forgot that Boimler has a collectible plate of Commander Ransom in his quarters on the Titan.
I totally missed that.
Yeah. You actually have to zoom in on the shot to see it, but
I'll look for that in my
Of course you
rewatch.
did.
yeah. Oh, we forgot to mention, we got to wrap it up here, but the return of Badgie.
Yes.
I've been waiting my whole life to do this.
And I am actually
teach
looking
you
very...
a lesson?
You're gonna have to take away my what is it, the controls, the safety. Yeah. I actually am really looking forward to this idea of Beckett being like her very own secret division. Just this fucking subversive Star Trek.
Right.
It's like, I'm gonna do these things, but you can do all of the things that I can't get away with, and I'll just have your back. She's like, oh, it sounds like we're both going to the brig.
Yep.
It's like, just don't tell your father.
Riker had that final great line. I was watching the first Enterprise on the holodeck. You know, Archer and those guys, what a story. They had a long road getting from there to here.
Oh, man.
So good.
Worst line in the whole series.
Best line ever.
It was...
I mean,
that was a long way to go for that joke. It was.
It really was.
Yeah, the best Riker line is in warp 1, 5, 7, 8. Jazz it up.
Well, of course, that means this week we get to start watching season 3 of Discovery. This Thursday.
Man, Cable,
is it this Thursday? All right.
This Thursday, yeah. There's no downtime between Lower Decks and Discovery.
They kept advertising it as 23 weeks of uninterrupted Trek.
Yep. So we got 13
that's why I was
Discovery.
thinking there was something else besides Lower Decks and Discovery.
10 and 13 is 23.
10 and 13.
So it is.
And then it's going to be dry for a while because nobody's filming right now, which sucks.
The CW is filming right now.
I mean, Star Trek.
There's other things to watch besides Star Trek.
No, there's not. No, I'm just kidding. I know.
All right. Well, on that note.
Well, I was just say, Cable, that means you did finally see season 2, the end of it, right?
We are done.
How badass was it when Laurel joins that fight at the end?
Oh man!
When she yells that we will bathe in the blood of our enemies and walk into it, it's like, oh my god, Laurel, you're the best.
And I'm hoping in season 3 that we get to see some of those Klingons out of makeup playing other characters, because it would be a shame to lose Mary Chieffo.
Yeah. At the very least, also, I hope she's got a few episodes in Strange New Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like her and Pike will maintain some kind of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just back channels. Which, unfortunately, knowing how things go in TOS and how things go for the first woman Chancellor of the Empire, it's not going to go well for her having those back channels with Pike.
Nope. That's fine.
Yeah.
I think the other Discovery actor that I'd like to see on Strange New Worlds is definitely Rainn Wilson's Harry Mudd again.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to see how they pull that off.
Well, because I think...
Oh, I'm sorry. You said Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
Never mind. That same time, same chunk of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we'd get to watch the slow decline of Mudd from this vicious pirate to the joke that he is in the original series.
That is interesting, though, because when you watch the first episode of Mudd in TOS, like Spock has the computer read off his crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all still horrible crimes, including like the violation of a whale. Like, it's on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, didn't we talk about this last week?
A couple of weeks ago, yeah, we did.
Yeah, it's like everyone's complaining, also, but they actually gave TOS gave us a list of things to go off of.
Mm-hmm. But
also, in iMud, or Mudd's first TOS appearance, yes, the actor plays him so jovial that he's fun to watch, but everyone forgets, like, yeah, he's a drug dealer and a sex slave trader. It just happens like, oh, Jimmy boy, he's selling women and keeping them addicted to drugs so they look attractive. Like, guys, let's, so. I mean, even I had to think about like, oh, Mudd's so goofy. Why is he so mean? And I thought, like, oh, no, wait a minute. No, it's just that the actor is goofy. Mudd's actually a horrible, horrible person.
Yep.
Well, people don't read for comprehension, or like they don't listen to the words. They just like the beat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Had a good beat. You could dance to it.
Like Republicans using "Born in the USA" all the time.
All right. Well, with that, next week we will be watching. That's just not understanding irony.
What are we watching?
Commentary on Empok Nor from DS9.
Oh yeah, I'm excited about that one.
And then we'll finish it off. Nor. Yep. And then we'll finish it off with the
Enterprise. Impulse.
Thank you. I always want to call it Primal. I'm like, nope, that's not it.
Thing?
I have no idea if Aaron is still with us. I think he is.
No, I think he's frozen.
But we're still broadcasting, so his connection is still somehow connected. Otherwise, we would have gone down too.
Oh, interesting. I don't know what to do now.
I think we should just sign off.
I hope it's still recording.
Yeah, so he's Aaron Duran.
I'm being Arita.
And I'm Cable Hashitane. Oh, and I'm the host now. And we will see everyone next week for Empok Nor. Fuck Ted Wheeler. Resign.
Don't forget to vote.
And we'll see everybody next week. Bye. Let me see if I can figure out how to turn this off.